The movie begins with Frida, a young woman who dreams of becoming an animal-themed nail artist but currently works as a waitress. She's passionate about her nail art and regularly posts pictures of her creations on social media. One day, while scrolling through the internet, she comes across an interview with Slater King, a billionaire tech mogul. Slater, in the interview, publicly seeks forgiveness for an unspecified inappropriate behavior and announces his resignation as CEO of his company. He also mentions that he bought an island where he grows his own food and raises chickens. Frida, who secretly harbors a crush on Slater, becomes curious and begins digging up more information about him online. As her frustration with her own monotonous life grows, Frida finds herself longing for an escape, even joking about needing a vacation. A few days later, she and her roommate, Jess, head to Slater's annual gala to work as waitresses. Upon arrival, Frida's boss reminds her of the incident from last year's event, where she had tried to talk to Slater. Frida explains how Slater had complimented her nails, but her boss insists that she stay invisible this time around. As the two girls work, they marvel at the extravagance of the event, with the elite guests dressed in their most glamorous outfits. Frida can't resist sneaking glances at Slater throughout the night. Jess, always up for fun, sneaks Frida into the locker room and pulls out 2 party dresses she smuggled in for them. Dressed to blend in with the VIPs, the 2 girls join the party crowd. Frida soon spots Slater and nervously walks toward him, but in a clumsy moment, she bumps into a waiter and falls to the floor. To her surprise, it's Slater who offers her a hand, helping her up. Slater introduces Frida to his social circle, starting with his therapist, Dr. Rich. Frida makes a joke about blinking twice if he's in danger, and Dr. Rich plays along, making them all laugh. Slater then introduces her to his childhood friend Cody, his security guard Stan, his trusted right-hand man Vic, and 2 close female friends, Heather and Camilla. She also meets Lucas, a college graduate, Tom, a DJ, and Sarah, a reality TV star. Frida is over the moon to be hanging out with Slater and his elite friends. The night becomes a whirlwind of laughter, drinks, and unforgettable moments for her. However, the fun is interrupted when Slater's assistant, Stacy, informs him that they need to leave for the island. Frida and Slater exchange bittersweet goodbyes. But as she's talking to Jess about the night, Slater suddenly returns and invites both of them to join him on the trip to the island. The girls eagerly accept. The next scene shows Slater, his group, and the 2 girls boarding a private jet and flying off to the island. When they land, Frida is awestruck by the sheer luxury of the place. Stacy arrives to collect everyone's phones, ensuring that their vacation won't be interrupted by work or distractions. Though everyone agrees without protest, Jess is a little hesitant but eventually hands hers over. Later, Slater shows Frida to her room, which is filled with an array of clothes for her to wear. As he leaves, Frida takes a shower and finds a luxurious perfume, which she applies. But as she's getting ready to change, an old maid enters the room and eerily calls her Red Rabbit, staring at her like she knows her. Frida, confused, asks the maid what she means, but the woman leaves without answering. Frida later meets up with Jess outside, who is equally surprised by the clothes prepared for them, especially since they were invited last minute. Frida brushes it off, chalking it up to the perks of being around the super-rich. Frida and Jess join the rest of the girls, all dressed similarly, but none of them seem to find it odd. They head over to the pool, where Frida continues to exchange glances with Slater. However, before long, Sarah approaches Slater, trying to flirt with him. Despite her attempts, Slater shows little interest, keeping his attention focused on Frida. Later, Slater takes Frida on a personal tour of the island, showing her a rare flower called Desideria, which is used to make the perfume they've been using. He also casually mentions that the island has a problem with lash vipers, venomous snakes that workers are trying to eliminate. As they walk, Slater opens up, confessing that he remembers very little about his life before the age of 10. He explains that this is why he sees Dr. Rich, who specializes in repressed memories. Frida finds this revelation unsettling, but Slater reassures her by saying that sometimes forgetting can be a blessing. As they continue the tour, they come across Stacy, who is carrying several red gift bags. Later that night, the group gathers for dinner, with candles scattered around because the generator has stopped working. While eating, Frida accidentally stains her dress, and Vic, Slater's right-hand man, asks her what she does for a living. Frida responds that she's still figuring it out. During this interaction, Frida notices that Vic is missing a pinky finger. Slater jokes about how he lost it, but Vic doesn't answer. Instead, he takes out a small bottle of MDMA, and the group indulges, quickly becoming euphoric and playful. Everything seems to be going well until Frida notices later that night that the stain on her dress has mysteriously vanished. She finds it odd but dismisses it. Over the next few days, the group enjoys bottomless champagne, swims in the pool, and indulges in gourmet dinners followed by drug-fueled nights. During one of these evenings, Slater notices a small scar next to Frida's eye and asks about it. Frida, however, has no memory of how she got it. When Slater shifts the conversation to her nail art, she tells him about her small brand, Nailmals, a blend of the words animal and nails. Satisfied with her answer, Slater suddenly excuses himself, leaving so quickly that he forgets his vaporizer. Later, while inspecting the vaporizer, Frida notices dirt under her fingernails, which catches her by surprise. The following morning, as she goes to return the vaporizer to Slater, she sees him finishing up a therapy session with Dr. Rich. Frida greets the doctor and brings up the joke about blinking twice, which they shared at the gala. However, Dr. Rich seems nervous and quickly agrees with her before hastily leaving with a red gift bag. One evening, during a party, the group is interrupted by a sudden scream. Jess has been bitten by a snake. Slater kills the snake with a bottle and reassures everyone that the venom isn't deadly. Despite this, Jess begins to panic and leaves the gathering abruptly. When Frida follows her, Jess tells her she wants her phone back and insists on leaving the island. She feels that something strange is going on and that the people they are surrounded by are not who they seem. Frida, however, refuses to leave, telling Jess that, for the first time in her life, she feels noticed. She believes this island getaway is exactly what they had always wanted, a chance to escape their ordinary lives. Reluctantly, Jess agrees to stay, and the two return to the group, deciding to remain on the island despite their growing suspicions. Later, while alone, Jess suddenly experiences a nosebleed. The next morning, Frida follows her usual routine, showering and applying the signature perfume. During a walk, she stumbles upon a red bag lying outside a room. Intrigued, she steps inside and is shocked to find numerous red bags scattered around. Just then, the old maid appears, calling her Red Rabbit once again. The maid hands her a strange green liquid, and Frida, without hesitation, takes a sip. But as the maid points to snake remains nearby, Frida realizes that the liquid is actually snake venom from the lash vipers. Horrified, she flees the room. That night, Frida has a disturbing dream where Jess appears, holding a knife and pleading for her to hide it. When Frida wakes up, she feels unwell, her appearance catching Sarah's attention. At breakfast, Lucas arrives with a bruise on his eye, but no one seems to question it, just as no one notices Jess's absence. Afterward, the men eagerly head out for a fishing trip, while the girls opt to stay back. One of the girls pulls out Jess' lighter, which prompts Frida to ask where Jess is. Shockingly, none of the girls seem to remember anyone by that name. Panicking, Frida rushes to Jess's room, only to find it completely empty, as if Jess had never been there. She then goes to her own room and discovers a knife hidden behind a mirror. Just then, Sarah walks in, holding Jess's lighter. Frida insists Jess was real, but Sarah dismisses the claim, saying she would remember if someone else was there. Frustrated, Frida recounts the strange occurrences, how she keeps waking up with dirt under her nails. Sarah then shows her a bruise on her arm, clueless as to how she got it. She also confesses that in this group, the only person she actually knows is Cody, who randomly invited her to the island after meeting her in a coffee shop. As the two piece things together, they realize they've been manipulated by the men. Frida recalls Slater's cryptic remark that forgetting is a gift. Determined to uncover the truth, they head back to the room filled with red bags and speculate that the perfume contains a substance that erases memories. Frida also points out that she began remembering things after drinking the snake venom provided by the maid. Discovering more of the venom in the room, Frida shares it with Sarah, hoping it will help her regain lost memories. With a plan forming, they mix the snake venom with tequila and offer it to Heather and Camilla, hoping it will jog their memories too. Before long, Stacy joins them and consumes some of the drink as well. She casually informs the group that the men will be returning soon, prompting Frida to realize time is running out. Desperate to recover their phones, Frida decides to search for them inside Slater's private villa, instructing Sarah to keep watch and yell if the men return. Not long after, Sarah begins to experience a nosebleed, just like Jess had before her disappearance. When the men arrive, Slater inquires about Frida, and Sarah calmly replies that she's freshening up in her room. Meanwhile, Frida breaks into Slater's villa and rummages through a locked cupboard, where she finally finds the phones. Just as she hides them, she hears Sarah's warning cry and ducks for cover. In the chaos, a box falls, revealing a collection of Polaroid photos, each showing different people holding the red bags. As Frida stares in shock, Slater enters the room, oblivious to her presence. He casually grabs some liquid for his vape, entirely unaware that Frida is hiding under the desk, just inches away from him. Just as Frida is hiding, the snake venom starts to affect her. Her nose begins to bleed, and suddenly, memories flood back into her mind. In a horrifying flash, she recalls herself and the other women bound and terrified, as the men brutally tortured them. Frida now realizes that the venom had caused Jess to remember everything, which led Slater to order Stan to kill her. Shocked by the revelation, Frida takes advantage of Slater's distraction and bolts from the room. She finds Sarah and urgently tells her everything that happened to Jess. Fearing they might suffer the same fate, the two decide to act normal until Heather and Camilla regain their memories. Later that night, during dinner, Frida's memories overwhelm her. She remembers that the men had been assaulting them night after night, erasing their memories with the perfume afterward. It turns out that Lucas was uncomfortable with the abuse, but the other men pressured him, mocking his reluctance and telling him to grow up. Frida also recalls Dr. Rich assaulting her recently, and how panicked he was that she might remember. Slater had reassured him, saying, "The worse it is, the more they forget," explaining the doctor's nervous reaction when she recognized him at the gala. As the grotesque memories surface, Frida struggles to maintain her composure, and Sarah feels the same way. Yet, in an effort to appear normal, Frida musters the strength to dance, and Sarah soon joins her. The others follow, transforming the night into another seemingly joyous party. But the facade shatters when a blood-curdling scream echoes through the room. It's Camilla, who has regained her memories and, in a fit of rage, begins stabbing Tom repeatedly until he dies. Slater rushes over and restrains her, while Heather, whose memories also return, starts chasing after Vic. Chaos erupts inside the villa. Sarah stabs Cody in the hand and tries to attack him further, but he escapes her grasp. Meanwhile, Heather catches up to Vic and bashes his face in with a chessboard, relentlessly smashing him. Just as she's about to finish him off, Stan, the security guard, shoots her dead. Seeing Frida in the distance, Stan starts chasing her into the woods. He eventually catches up to her and prepares to shoot, but Sarah suddenly appears from behind and strikes him with a massive rock. She hits him repeatedly until he's dead. Back at the villa, Slater drags a severely injured Vic and a bound Camilla inside. Lucas, confused and terrified from using the memory-erasing perfume just like the women, begins to panic, unsure of what's happening. But Slater coldly ignores him, stepping on Camilla's neck and suffocating her until she dies. Elsewhere, Frida, now frantically searching her room for a weapon, is startled when Stacy enters, visibly distressed. Frida realizes that Stacy's memories have returned, but unlike the others, Stacy has been using the memory-erasing perfume willingly. Stacy insists that forgetting is a gift and furiously blames Frida for forcing her to remember such traumatic events. In the ensuing struggle, Frida defends herself, ultimately stabbing Stacy in the chest and killing her. Meanwhile, back in the woods, Cody is still searching for the remaining girls under Slater's orders. Before he can act, Sarah ambushes him and shoots him dead. Inside the villa, Lucas remains confused and distressed, unable to comprehend why the women are acting so strangely. As Frida reunites with Sarah, she makes a shocking discovery, a Polaroid of herself taken in the mansion a year ago. This means Frida had been to the island before and had her memory wiped just like the others. Armed with this newfound knowledge, the women gather weapons, Frida with a knife and Sarah with a gun, and they head to confront Slater, determined to end the torment once and for all. Outside Slater's villa, they demand he opens the door. He refuses, but Lucas, still bewildered, opens it instead, only to be shot by Sarah. Seizing the chaos, Slater manages to overpower Frida and locks her inside with him. As she struggles, a flashback from a year ago returns to her. She remembers trying to escape, falling onto a rock, and getting the scar near her eye. She also recalls biting off Vic's pinky finger during her last attempt to break free, while her nails were painted with a red rabbit design. In the present, Slater monologues to a tied-up Frida, claiming that if people could forget their traumas, they would be free from suffering. He offers her the chance to join him, to put on the perfume, and erase the past forever. But as he talks, Frida silently works on freeing herself with a shard of glass. Just then, Sarah begins shooting at the locked door. However, when her bullets run out, Slater captures her and drags her into the room with Frida. As Slater threatens Sarah, he grabs Frida's knife. Frida fears that he will kill her, but he reassures her that he won't, because she's his best friend. Confidently, Slater inhales from his vape and prepares to finish Sarah off. But suddenly, he becomes dizzy and confused, unsure of what's happening. Frida reveals that while he was distracted outside, she had infused his vape with a memory-erasing perfume. Disoriented, Slater stumbles and accidentally knocks over some candles, causing a fire to break out in the villa. The flames quickly spread, engulfing the room. As Slater collapses, Frida leaves him and the dying Vic behind to burn in the inferno. Outside, as they watch the villa consumed by flames, Sarah nervously asks Frida if she knows what she's doing. The camera pans out, revealing that Frida has, in fact, saved Slater from the fire. In the final scene, some time has passed. Slater's company is hosting another grand gala, and the billionaire is a shell of his former self, disoriented and detached. Dr. Rich approaches him, asking for a private meeting, but Slater seems too confused to respond. Before anything more can happen, Frida steps in and informs the doctor that Slater won't be available. As Rich nervously glances at Frida, she reminds him that she remembers everything about their past. The movie ends with Frida being introduced as the new CEO of Slater's company. As she takes her place in the spotlight, we see her quietly drugging Slater's vape once again, ensuring that he remains under her control, disoriented and compliant forever.